Good afternoon. I'm John Shafley, Chief Revenue Officer here at FIPP, and welcome to the last session of the penultimate day of the FIPP World Congress and Innovators Summit 2020. Welcome back to the Kenton Theatre here in Henley-on-Thames, and my last session as host after 4 long but fascinating weeks. This session looks at the transformation of video technology and the 2020 news cycle. To discuss this, we have Marco Viganò, I probably pronounced that wrong, the CTO of Conde Nast, Italy, and Zohar Dayan, the CEO and founder of Wibbitz. But before we get into that, can I remind you please to ask questions and interact with the studio and each other. It's a real opportunity to ask anything you like. In the chat box and the question tabs you will find to the right of your screen, so please do use them. Also, the virtual exhibition is now open and you can view it from the timeline. In there, you will find details of all our exhibitors and sponsors, including Wibbitz. Wibbitz is an automated video creation company that empowers any team to produce professional short-form video. The Wibbitz online platform makes it quick and easy to create video for social media, news and entertainment coverage, marketing, communications, recruitment, events, and much more. So to explain more about the power of video and transformation, welcome Zohar and Marco.
Thank you very much, John. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you. Okay, I'm going to hand over to you two.
Sounds good. So we're going to try and cover as much as we can about why video is important in today's world. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So like John mentioned, we're seeing a real transformation in the industry in general. And I think, very much so in the way video content is being consumed and being produced. And we're going to talk a bit about how this affects the 2020 news cycle. So to start off, I thought it would be good to understand why video. So let's take a few steps back and understand why is video important in the first place. And I think the first very interesting stat that we see, which is continuously evolving, is that by 2022, online videos will make up more than 82% of all consumer internet traffic. That's a 15 times growth in the last 5 years, which is incredible. And every year we see that stat being updated. And if we think about our own consumption habits, I don't think this should surprise anyone really. Another very interesting stat is that the way we function, the way our brains process video is much more efficient. Our brains process video 60,000 times faster than text, and we retain 95% of the message when it is consumed through video versus only 10% with plain text, which I think is an incredible stat and really should incentivize any content creator, any storyteller to make sure that they deliver their message through visual means. Next, a website is 53 times more likely to reach the front page of Google if it includes video. The way Google's search algorithms work, if you do include videos on a page, that improves the SEO ranking of that page very dramatically. So if you're trying to battle and get your brand or your website into the first page of Google search results, video is definitely one of the better tools to do that. Finally, video is the #1 source of information today for 66% of people out there. So again, think about how we consume content today, and especially the platforms and devices which we consume content on. This again should not be surprising. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, all of those are becoming or have been video first platforms to begin with. And I think this trend is just going to continue with the evolution of technology, and of course with more adoption in mobile devices across the world. Now, we're obviously living in a different era today due to the coronavirus pandemic, which has also very much shifted and transformed really the way that people consume their information. And if you look at it today, the average American streams 8 hours of video per day since the pandemic started. Viewers are spending about 40% more time streaming ad-supported and subscription TV. So a lot of those cord cutters out there, including myself, by the way. And people are looking for more information and direction online during these, very uncertain times. And we're seeing a very clear trend of people preferring to consume that information through video. Which in many cases presents a much more compelling and visual case to follow and makes things, the information much more digestible, which is very important in these times. So we're seeing with more people stuck at home, craving to know what's going on, and also just to really have an escape from what's going on, they're consuming a lot more content through video. And when we're talking about, publishers specifically, we can ask the very simple question: how can publishers compensate for the leveling of website traffic since the initial spike in March? So for the publishers out there, that are tracking very diligently their traffic, we all saw a very big spike in the early days of the pandemic, specifically in March and April, and each country, it kind of varied depending on when they spiked with their cases, with more people trying to consume more information, trying to find out through the news what is going on, and trying to get a better sense of how they can deal with it and how their local governments are dealing with it. But since then, like a lot of countries have also flattened the curve, we also saw a bit of a flattening of the curve when it came to website traffic. And a few interesting examples here from publishers like Group 9 and Hearst, who actually increased weekly video uploads since the outbreak, since the peak of the outbreak. They actually did not see that dip in April traffic like many other publishers have seen, but they've seen more of a consistent viewership across their video content, which is another reinforcement of the fact that people are craving a lot more of that video content today to stay updated. We've also seen that mobile video traffic is continuing to grow as the stay-at-home orders ease, which is another very interesting stat to follow as a content creator. When it comes to consuming more video content and the types of content that can be streamed, I think 5G networks that are going to continue to roll out in major cities around the world this year is going to greatly affect these trends and accelerate them. We're going to see much faster and more reliable smartphone connectivity. More people will have access to fast internet speeds that will enable streaming higher quality content. And I think that would open the opportunities for different types of formats as well, which are a bit limited today. Which will also create an easier to access multimedia content on the go. So while we see the rise in mobile video consumption, mobile content consumption in general, 5G will definitely help with that. And I think as content creators, we're going to have to think what type of content or what doors are opened thanks to 5G technology. The U.S. Population, but not only, obviously the U.S. election is a huge event, not only in the U.S. but worldwide, which is also driving a lot of shifts in consumption. We're seeing increased political activity on social media. Can make it more difficult for brands to effectively reach their customers, something that we all need to remember. But another thing that I think is very interesting is that advertisers that weren't typically comfortable buying ads next to news items or things that are associated with politics are doing so this year leading up to the election, which is something that we need to remember. And again, this is part of that broader shift that has happened in the world with COVID, because much of the news has been related to COVID, not your typical advertisers kind of sweet spot when it comes to the content that they want to be associated with. But during that pandemic, we saw that shift because people were craving that content and were consuming as a result of that. The impact of of video technology on today's media brands, we're seeing very interesting technologies, which we believe every creator, every publisher should keep their eye on when it comes to online video creation. So really trying to find ways of simplifying the creation process for your teams. And if you kind of, equate that to the way developers today, software developers are a lot of them are full stack developers. They know how to do multiple things, whether it's front end, back end, even design. And we're seeing something very similar with that respect when it comes to content creators and journalists alike. That, with new tools that are being introduced into the market, it's lowering the bar for them to create different types of content as well, video being a very important driver. We're also seeing a lot of innovation when it comes to video streaming. All of us have probably experienced this more and more in the past, more than ever in the past few months. And this is definitely going to change how people are receptive, how much people are receptive to streaming content, to attending live events or on-demand events just like this one, and what tools will be out there to make that whole process easier, both for the presenter and for the viewer, to create a much more engaging experience and engaging conversation, mainly due to the fact that we're all missing that in-person, real-life interaction between people. And finally, video hosting and management. With all that content being generated, we're going to have much better video hosting and management, as well as performance and analytics measurement tools in order to make sure that we're doing things in the right way, making sure that we're reaching the right audiences, and making sure that our teams have the best and easiest tools to manage all those assets that are being created. So why is video technology becoming a larger part of the modern newsroom today? So I think a lot of the points that we touched on earlier, being ensuring a better user experience, improving time to market to keep up with increased demand for more content. So we all know that specifically when it comes to video, production time is typically longer than any other form of media. And by doing things more efficiently, we can keep up with that demand. Democratizing video skill sets for in-house production. Like I mentioned before, that full stack creator, that full stack storyteller, I think will be a trend that we'll continue seeing in the future. And we need to find ways to empower our teams to do that more efficiently and to really be comfortable stepping out of their comfort zone. Gaining and keeping attention without compromising on quality or trust. So the most important thing, especially in today's world where there's so much fake news being spread, how do we ensure that the best brands out there are not compromising on the quality when they adopt these new tools as part of their workflows? Because maintaining that trust with your audiences is probably the most important thing moving forward. And finally, enabling more efficient ways for personalizing, packaging, and distributing the video content. And I think, as we progress, we're going to see new formats emerge to supplement what we're seeing today. So we're definitely seeing an increased investment in video technology in 2020. We listed a few examples here from some leading publishers. The first one is BBC. So the BBC has actually experimented with automated language translation for video and improved synthesized voice technology to develop its Japanese video service. So again, another great example of using technology and automation technology, specifically in this case, translation as well, to supplement and create more content in a more efficient way and reach a broader audience. We've also seen 21 of the major news agencies that are turning to financial and sports data into automated stories. So actually taking that structured content that you find typically in finance news, in sports news, and turning that automatically into stories, whether it's text-based, graphics, or video. This is, obviously expanding the speed and the range of their output. And again, this is something that is going to, embracing automation within the newsroom is going to be essential moving forward in order to answer that broader need in the market. And this is a very effective way to do it. Obviously, this is not for any type of content, and it's very important to choose the right use case. And I think definitely finance and sports are great ways of doing that. Very structured content, very repetitive in nature, and can be packaged in a very good way when it comes to automation. And finally, Conde Nast. Happy to say Conde Nast Italy and Marco's team have been using Wibbitz, our online video creation and automated API products, to scale up their editorial video production across 7 of their major brands. We're going to hear more about Marco in a little bit of how they've utilized the Wibbitz technology to really ramp up video production in a very cost-efficient and really productive manner to meet the needs of their audience, especially during the time of the pandemic. So with that, we're going to start our fireside chat with Marco Viganò, who is the CTO of Conde Nast Italy, who I think can share a lot of very interesting insights and things that they've learned at Conde Nast during these times. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here, Marco, if that's okay.
Okay.
So people can see us. How are you doing today?
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Zohar and FIPP Congress for that. Thank you so much.
Good. My pleasure. It's great to have you here. So to start off on our conversation, my first question would be, how have you seen audience interest change over the last few months? Have you seen a change? Is there a clear trend on what that change was?
Yeah, I think during your presentation, there are some important touch points around video production. It is one of the main topics that all the media company are facing and faces during the pandemic situation. If I talk about the Condé Nast Italy experience. We have to think about three phases about the pandemic. The pre-lockdown, which is mainly January, February, then the lockdown one, which is March, April, and then the post-lockdown. In these three phases, what we have seen is more or less the same behavior across each Condé Nast Italy brands, because like other media, like other companies, obviously at the start of the pandemic, traffic on our website started going up a lot. For example, in March, we have a lot of records inside our properties, inside our web pages, social media. But what happens in April, for example, where we are in the pandemic and the lockdown situation, traffic starting dropping down. This was not only a Condé Nast Italy behavior. This was something that happens in other companies. But I think we had to face with two main reasons. The first one is that people online like me and you start to be very tired about the new digital online every day, every hours situation. So we need to make something new. And then on the other way, we need to find another consumption of news, another consumption of information. For example, for Condé Nast was important that period because every online activity related to festival, music, music festival, events, sports has been stopped. And this kind of information are the core about our storytelling, about our way of communicating with our audience. So again, this reflecting a drop inside our statistics. We have a drop inside our page view, inside our unique visitors. And then another point was during the pandemic and during, especially during the lockdown, our user starts using our properties in a different way. In the past, we made a lot of statistics. We made a lot of unique visitors and page view around article with photo galleries, because we increment a lot our time spent on web. But starting from the lockdown, this behavior has changed a lot. People started taking a look at article with news, article with this kind of information. Again, because all the showbiz activities, all the celeb activities, sports and something like that that are covered by our properties have been stopped during the lockdown. If I take a look at some numbers, I can tell you that news section growing up 70% during this period, and topic and section that talk about fashion, celeb and gossip dropped down from 25 to 50%. This was important dropping because need to reinvent the way I will propose content to our users.
Very, very interesting. So, it's very hard to come up with a different content strategy, especially when a lot of, your brands are covering live events, music, fashion, travel, all have been pretty much, been put on hold. So definitely a lot of challenges there when it comes to content. What would you say were some of the biggest challenges, not just when it comes to content, that you at Condé Nast faced since the start of the pandemic?
Yeah, if I think about, let me say, our digital team or our marketing team, social, and all the activities around production of content, let me say, governance of content and engineering, nothing has changed a lot because we are already committed using Zoom for conferences, Hangout. We are a global company, so we work with colleagues around the world in different time zones. So the way how we approach our way of work in terms of technology and marketing has not changed a lot. But if I think about our editorial staff, our staff behind our brands, this changed the way how they work, because for example, you can't go out during a lockdown for making a new photographic service. You have problems because you are limited on that. And for this reason, all the editorial staff, helped by the technology, helped by our engineering, our social marketing team, start creating new content, start creating new things, start thinking how we can use everything online. For example, again, the production of videos was very important because we needed to create a content, and when we start creating a content, we have not to think only about what we have to write inside an article, because the statistics says that we need to expose this article, this information through video, and this is so important. So our editorial staff start thinking on new technologies and using other online tools. For example, Instagram Live became a very important asset for making live interview during some events, some of these topics covered by our journalists. And Conde Nast Italy started thinking how we can be very close to our audience. So we make a lot of editorial creation, like for example, in terms of print circulation, it was a problem because if you think about Vanity Fair Italy, it's the only one weekly edition we have in all the Conde Nast. All the other one are monthly. They start to be bi-weekly during the pandemic, and this on one end was a problem, but on the other one, all the journalists inside the magazine start creating new content, start creating new online activities, start thinking how I can make better things on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitch, or whatever. Again, one of the core business, one of the core activities around this kind of content was enabling these journalists of making videos, for example. And a lot of information around this topic we covered. For example, La Cucina Italiana, which is our brand that covered food, recipe. We have a school of cooking inside our offices, opened the kitchen, and our chef start teaching to people at home how to reuse some ingredients, because everybody at home start to reinvent ourselves as a chef, start making new recipe around that. So La Cucina Italiana started to be very close to the customers, like again, making some cakes without sugars, making some bread without yeast, and more and more. And Condé Nast changes this way to be very, very close to the users.
Very, very interesting. Do you think in some ways the pandemic also accelerated innovation within the organization?
Yeah, I think yes, it was very important because we start thinking, let me say, on all the platforms, on all the things that we need to cover. And the pandemic was a point that we start to regroup as a team, start to reorganize our activities, and how we can increase, for example, our production. We use Wibbitz, which is so simple for making creation of videos. Everybody in the company at the moment is able to create new videos in very easy steps. You can then propagate these videos on YouTube, on Twitch, or whatever. It's quite important for a journalist to be as fast as we can when we need to produce this kind of information.
All right. Well, we're very happy to hear that here at Wibbitz, and we're always trying to really find ways of making it easier for your users, and your team's feedback has been great. So when it comes to 2020, wasn't the year that we all hoped or expected it to be, for all the obvious reasons. I'm curious to know, what does an optimal news experience, in your opinion, look like in 2020?
Yeah, I think we need to think about a 360 experience. Let me say, what does it mean? It means that when we publish an article or a news, we need to think about, okay, we have to publish some images, photo galleries. We need to start thinking that this is not the end, because in the past, if you think, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, when we publish a news inside our website, journalists start writing a piece of content. Then if you had the videos, then publish the videos. And then probably 2 or 3 years ago, we publish a Facebook post for driving traffic. But at the moment, this is not enough. We have to cover a lot of systems. We have an ecosystems of functionality that we need to cover. For example, journalists need to be aware about SEO. They need to know very well how to write a piece of content for be spotted by search engine. When they publish, I don't know, a photo galleries, they need to understand that these galleries could be spidery. Then you can find that on Google Images. Or again, we can distribute this piece of content everywhere, from Flipboard to Apple News or other distribution network. And then we need to think that we must cover the production of video. But the production of video is not a one-one correlation between an article and a video and videos. It is a one-to-many correlation, because when you publish a video on YouTube related to your story, it is completely different when you publish these videos on Instagram and you publish these videos on TikTok or Twitch, because the way you interact with these videos changes in terms of the audience you have in these social media and the functionality you have in this social media. So you have to cover this way of production content in a new way. For example, in Conde Nast Italy, we have a very important social media team that covers not only the topics we have to cover inside the newsroom, but which are the new functionality that today, I don't know, TikTok rollout or Facebook rollout, how we can use this kind of information. And in terms of publishing, we have to cover other things, like, for example, podcasts. Podcasts are not new because they were born in 2005, but at the moment, we are ready in terms of knowing the KPIs, the analytics, and more. And related to your presentation, it's really important, the 5G era, because the media consumption will grow up very fast in the next couple of months.
Very interesting. And you talked a bit about some of the tools that your teams have been using at Conde Nast. Can you elaborate more on what are the tools? What have you been trying to incentivize them to do more of? You touched on that a bit, but curious to hear kind of more in depth about that as well.
Yes, I think this is a topic I really love, which is the machine learning. It's something that it's really near what we do every day, because if you think about data scientists at the moment, it has a lot of functionality inside all the softwares, like, for example, WAV from your solution, or if you use AWS or GCP or Microsoft Azure, you can write your own machine learning model for write, I don't know, your recommendation engine, making analysis of data. In the past, obviously, we need to collect those data, because without data, you can make better machine learning, you can make a better recommendation engine, you can make this kind of information. And if you think about a customer journey, or software or a solution like Salesforce, or a solution like every DMP you can find out there, every of these systems use machine learning to think about the customer journey. But to me, it's not only send to you the correct email, send to you the correct instant messaging, the correct SMS, the correct push notification. is to create content for you, tailor-made for you. And if we are able to touch this point for our for our audience, for our readers, in an easy, cheap, fast way, this is a game change. Because again, if you think about La Cucina Italiana, it's quite simple to think, I want to send to you your content if you like some recipe. For example, I love cakes. It's simple to me to send something related to tiramisu or whatever in a pastisserie. But this could be important to understand. I need to send to you the correct information in the correct time frame during the day, during the week. Because if you have a family, if you have children, you have not so time during the week for cooking something very complex, but you have time probably during the weekend. So I send to you this kind of information. And with machine learning and data, this fit very well what we want to do.
I missed the tiramisu in Italy, I have to say. So like we said, 2020 was a different year. As you said, it also, created the necessity for change, and perhaps even created innovation, and in some cases leapfrog our strategy quite significantly. Where do you see the media industry headed in 2021, assuming that we're going to get out of this pandemic and that there will be a vaccine? How do you expect the video technology to evolve along with that?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Because let me think about a provocation around that. So does a media company, does a publisher need a website in 2021? For me, not. Why this? Because people, users, customers are on other media, on another platform, are on Instagram, or on TikTok, on Twitch. Sorry, I take a look at a lot of videos on Twitch related to some video games or something like that. And so a publisher must become a content distribution network with a single point where journalists write articles. Then the content can be distributed everywhere in different forms, but everywhere. Media company needs to think about how the media consumption is different between Generation Z, between a baby boomer, between a Generation X, and more. I don't know why we don't publish, for example, a magazine on Discord, or why we didn't use Roblox, which is not only a game, but a game platform. Last week, for example, Ava Max, which is a famous singer, hold a launch party on Roblox. And in the past, Travis Scott, another famous rapper, made a concert on Fortnite. And I don't know, for example, on Minecraft, the NFL played some games. And more, GQ Italy opened 3 or 4 months ago, if I remember correctly, an island on Nintendo Switch, on Animal Crossing, the famous game for Nintendo Switch. And why this? Because people are on that platform. We need to cover that platform. We need to publish everywhere our content. We need to become a content distribution network. And obviously, we need to maintain the print circulation, because some people still continue reading our iconic magazine. We still need to continue to have our website. This is the truth. But we need to think about new generation. New generation are on other platform. We need to distribute on that. And if we think about the new video technology, if you are a fan of Star Wars, there is the Mandalorian saga on Disney Plus. If you haven't seen the making of, I would really suggest to take a look, because for me, this is the evolution of the video technology around that. what the Mandalorian uses behind the scene, use new techniques named virtual production. If you think about in the past, every 3D animation, every 3D background made it inside the film was made with a big green screen, and then each actor with some sensor on their body. But when you need to reproduce that 3D world, you have to make some post-production. So if there was some error, the director of the film need to rebuild the scene. With the virtual production, there are some very important technology changes, like using the Unreal Engine. The Unreal Engine is an engine made by Epic Games. Epic Games is the software house behind Fortnite, the software house that at the moment is facing some problem with Apple because they rejected Fortnite from the Apple Store. And the Unreal Engine helped making this virtual production. What is the difference between the green screen and the virtual production? The director of the film looking directly inside the camera and seeing directly the world rendered inside the camera. Without having a post-production environment, without having post-production, losing post-production timing. This is a game-changing because in the same virtual production environment, you can render, for example, an office, then a castle, then a playground court. Playground because I'm really fond about basketball in the background. I don't know if you can see my basketball ball. And this obviously cut costs. And let me say, I imagine some point, some virtual production became available for everybody in their smartphone. Something that could be a mix between VR and AR, but without an headset. So with your smartphone, you can create your virtual world, and YouTube or Instagram or Twitter can make some specific new scenario inside these videos, some specific new layer interactivity. More advanced, like I don't know, Bandersnatch on Netflix, when you have to choose between story A or story B, or Minecraft story mode. Again, on Netflix, we have to choose between story A, story B, but something more specific and more deeper in terms of interaction between the YouTuber and the people that taking a look to the video.
That's super interesting. And going back to the statements you started with, I think those are very bold statements, but I think you're really asking the right questions and looking kind of, into the future and future generations of how they're going to consume content, how they're already consuming content. And I think having that innovative approach with the examples that you mentioned, that you guys are already testing some of them, I think that's really fascinating, and it's going to be very interesting to see the results and how that evolves with time. And I really appreciated the Mandalorian video you sent me. I thought it was amazing, and I highly encourage everybody to watch it because I really do think that it can open a lot of opportunities when it comes to new types of production. We're seeing that right now in film and TV, but how can we utilize the same type of technology for creating more engaging news and media productions? I think that is a fascinating point. And you said you're a basketball fan. You're watching the NBA finals?
Yeah, every night because
who are you going to bet on in the finals? LeBron again?
The King is too strong. I think Lakers will win that. But anyway, I hope in Game 7.
Yeah, I agree. Let's hope we have an interesting series. And thank you very much, Marco, for all of your really good insights. And with that, we're going to, I believe, hand it off to John and some questions.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me. Great. That's a really, really interesting presentation. There's a lot of questions here. I'm going to start with the first one, which you probably asked already. Marco was talking about video fatigue, and when we talk about video fatigue, I think we're talking about Zoom, right? And one of the reasons why we ran this over such a long period was that we didn't think you could run a virtual event in a similar or same period you can a physical one, because people just they just can't watch the same thing for 8 hours. So have you seen the use of short form video around that in COVID change as a result of that? Or have you seen any developments or trends that have evolved? I guess to you, Zohar, or either of you actually.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely heard that from people, that Zoom fatigue that you're talking about, and have experienced that ourselves, I have to say. And I think what you've done with the FIPP conferences is great. And we've definitely seen a change in the way or how much people want to produce short form video. We actually saw a huge spike in usage from our existing customers, which understood that as well, that instead of producing a lot of that longer form content that they were prior to COVID, they had to produce a lot more of that short form content to address really the fatigue that you're talking about, but also the short attention span that people have, even when they do watch something a bit longer online. They're typically also doing a lot of other things and during that as well. So I think it's a competition of attention spans, and definitely from what we've been seeing, many more companies have increased the production of a lot of those short form, bite-sized content, and they're really trying to tailor it for every platform.
Yeah, leading on from that, Marco, you talked about across the celebrity and the fashion sectors, a sort of 25 to 50% drop off in audience levels. First question, of those bounce back, so 3 questions really, sorry. First one, as those numbers bounce back, is that down to more short form video and content, and have the editorial teams been able to develop those skill sets in the time frame that they've had to?
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky because it was a process that we started for making this kind of short video and short, let me say, film, and then we have a video farm inside the company that help using this new kind of technology inside the company. So the editorial teams was very engaged with this new technology. So they are very able to produce this new kind of videos, because like using Wibbitz, for example, it's very easy for doing that. You have not to reinvent something, or you don't have a very power machine for do that, because everything is in the cloud. So they change their mindset and then start thinking how I can make my story better in a combination with this kind of videos, and then make this kind of propagation inside our social media.
Yeah, we've talked an awful lot about accelerated innovation, and there was a speaker a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember who said that COVID was actually sort of the golden sword, I think he described it, effectively meaning that we have moved forward 6 years in 6 months in terms of technology and how we've developed. And so Zohar, moving on from that, in terms of the effect on Wibbitz, I mean, clearly I know that in the early stages, everybody had a bad time because nobody was doing anything at all. But have you seen quite good growth over this period as a business?
Yeah, definitely. And I think very early on, when there was a lot of uncertainty in there, like you said, a lot of companies were experiencing a lot of hardships. We definitely had our fair share of uncertainty as well. But very quickly, we saw our existing customer base, like I mentioned before, turning to create more content, but not only that, really try to empower more of their teammates to do that as well, especially when a lot of the tools, especially production tools that they had access to when they were in the office, they didn't have that when they were working remote. They couldn't go out and shoot something, or couldn't go into the studio to edit something. And they really tried to find new tools and innovative ways of, giving them the ability to produce content, but also to collaborate as a team through cloud-based software and really bridge that gap. And we really saw a lot of our existing customers add additional users. And like you said, the innovation that we saw is kind of like 6 years and 6 months. We've definitely saw that with our customer base as well, because that has always been the premise of Wibbitz, is to really give video production tools and capabilities to people who wouldn't necessarily know how to do that to begin with, using traditional complicated video editing software.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked with you, so we really appreciate that. You also talked about packaging and more importantly, the distribution of content. If I just look at what we've created as saying, 80 plus hours or whatever it is of content, do you help businesses, or do you advise in businesses in ways to put that together into smaller slots and bite-sized slots, and how we distribute that? Because, and also Marco talked about companies potentially not needing a website. And I think we probably still look as the website as a sort of hub, the house of all that content and all that resource. And it is the next question, really, because we've all moved on and we've all created it and we've been sprinting. It's like, right, what the bloody hell do we do with it now?
Yeah, I mean, we try to give the expert advice when it comes to video creation, distribution, and best practices to our partners. We have a specialized team that provides a lot of that. And we really try to make things as easy and intuitive as possible through the platform, and really to address the different types of needs and different types of content that you as a content creator need to create, whether it's for your owned and operated websites. What are the best practices for that? For social media, there's very different user behaviors when it comes to content across the different social media platforms. Different when it's on desktop and when it's on mobile. So we really try to make it as easy and streamlined as possible. So if you're creating a video once for your owned and operated website, probably longer form in landscape, how do you take that piece of content that you've already invested time and effort in, and really with a click of a button, make it or adapt it to a mobile experience on Instagram stories, for example, which is completely different.
Yeah, well, the one thing I can guarantee you is that we'll be giving you a ring once we come up for air to discuss that a bit further. You talked about translation with the BBC, which I found quite interesting, because again, from our point of view, it's one of the most expensive elements of a physical event. So how are you working with translation agencies, and are there obvious routes to go in terms of vendors to work with, or is it still quite a crowded open space? Because that's the way we see it, or did.
Well, I think even with that respect, I think technology is getting better, and automated translation services are becoming much more accurate. Companies, of course, like Google, IBM, Amazon, are all investing a lot in this space. The way we see it when it comes to video, the way you can create videos through our platform makes it very easy to translate and repurpose those videos to other languages. And while we don't provide the translation service itself, we make it very easy for our customers, if they use a translation service, to repurpose that same video again and again. Yeah.
I think we've just been rather scared of it. I think there was the famous Pepsi one, which said that, Pepsi gives you life or something, which translated in Japanese to Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the dead or something. So anyway, look, I'm going to be quiet now and go to some questions from the audience, because I've talked long enough. I think you answered this a minute ago, but I've got a question here about the people and teams that you create for different types of video for each platform. So would you have different people for YouTube, Instagram, or websites, or would one team create the lot? I guess it depends on the size of publisher.
Yeah, we have, depends. It is a mix of people, because One is in the editorial team that know very well what they have to publish inside these new videos. And then you have on the other side the video farm that help to make these videos. This is a mix because at the moment there is an overlap between the video farm that make some cinematographic approach when we need to start and post-production of these videos. Then on the other end, we have the editors that they are at the moment start building these new videos in a very easy way. So content on one side is covered by the editors, and then curation of the content is covered on overlap between editorial staff and the video farm we have.
Right. Okay. Okay. And moving on to that, back to one of the early things that you talked about, Zohar, and also you've talked about, Marco. How will 4G and 5G impact on editorial content creation, and what type of formats are you referring to?
So I think that relates also a bit to what you said about user fatigue. And when it's not necessarily Zoom fatigue always, we're definitely going to see more of that fatigue from users from seeing the same types of content. And I think publishers and creators are going to have to start differentiating and creating separation between the different brands out there, because a lot of it does look very similar today, which is no surprise. That's what customers are looking for. But I think having much more, not just high quality content, but also different types of experiences. And I think as mobile devices get smarter and more powerful, we need our network to get more powerful with it. Even, here in New York, you still get sometimes, bad service, bad connection, which, really affect your experience. And I think if you're trying to deliver things that are naturally heavier, whether it's through experiences like augmented reality or virtual reality, or even when it comes to producing this type of content, like Marco alluded to before with the Mandalorian virtual production, you would be able to create, as a content creator, not just as a consumer, much more elaborate things on your smart device, on your mobile device, whether it's an iPhone, an Android device, or a tablet.
Yeah, I think it's just, the speed is just not good enough in 2020 right now. I'm going to just take a look at the time. It's run away with me a little bit, but let me try to go for a few more. So I think you probably answered this, but if you could answer again quickly. So publishers that see a requirement for a video content, but they worry they don't have the resource or expertise to deliver premium video, so they don't look at it. What would you say? Phone me, I suppose.
Yeah, for me, we need to continue to deliver high quality videos, because Conde Nast made some videos, for example, for Netflix, and we still to continue on that. So high quality video must be at the end, and in our scenario. And on the other end, we have to think about production again in a fast, easy way for making articles more near to the users.
Right. Okay. Okay. And just a quick question about onboarding skill sets. I guess to you, Zohar, how easy, if publishers are worried moving on from that, is it to onboard those skill sets to be able to create video? I know that's the whole premise of Wibbitz, but
it's super easy. I mean, you can get started on your own. If you ever used a platform like Wix or even a PowerPoint, it's very, very easy. We typically don't even need somebody to onboard you. We, of course, have a team to do the onboarding and to do professional training for our partners' teams. But it's really super, super intuitive. If you've never created a video in your life, you can start in a couple of minutes creating premium quality video that looks like it was created by a professional.
That's brilliant. Guys, I'm just looking at the clock. This is super timing because we've got 1 minute left. I'd like to thank you. First of all, Zohar, where's the easiest place for people to get hold of you?
On our website, if you go to wibbitz.com, you can get started immediately, get started with a free trial, and reach out to our team if you want to expand.
And you can also, if you want to get in touch, you can also come via me, John J. Oh, just pull my microphone off. end of the day. Me, John, JOHN at FIPP.com or info@FIPP.com. So it just leaves me to thank you very much. We could have talked for ages on this subject. Do please remember that you can watch this again. This is an on-demand session. I'd just like to remind you, tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock BST, which is 12 o'clock CET, we have a live presentation of the FIPP UPM Rising Stars 2020 Awards with interviews, some fascinating people there. So do please tune in for that. This is me out for the Congress. My last session, and I couldn't have ended in a better way. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and take care. We'll speak soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.